Sara was just 18 years old when her life took a terrifying turn. Like many young women her age, she dreamed of freedom, of finally leaving behind the heavy shadow of her controlling father. She longed for a space of her own, far from his watchful eyes, where she could shape her own future. But instead of independence, Sara was dragged into a nightmare that would steal 2 decades of her life. Her father had a secret. Hidden behind an old wardrobe in their house was a reinforced electronic door, cold and metallic, that opened to a concealed basement room. It wasn't just a room, it was a prison. A place he had prepared in silence, away from anyone's knowledge. One evening, under the guise of a normal night, he led Sara there. As the heavy door locked behind her, Sara didn't know it would be the last time she'd feel the world outside for 20 long years. What awaited her in the basement was not just isolation, but cruelty. Her father became her jailer, her abuser, and her tormentor. Over the years, Sara endured unspeakable abuse, the kind that left scars not just on the body but on the soul. She gave birth to 4 children in captivity. The first was Maria, followed by Michael, then Thomas. The fourth, heartbreakingly, did not survive. The baby died shortly after birth, and without ceremony, her father buried the tiny body in the garden, erasing yet another trace of the life he had stolen. Of the children, Thomas was taken away. He was raised above ground with Sara's grandmother, Irene, who had no idea of his true origins. She believed Sara had abandoned him, thinking him too much of a burden. The truth was far darker. Meanwhile, Maria and Michael grew up alongside their mother in the dim, suffocating basement. Their childhood was a cruel contradiction. They had books to read and food to eat, yet they were denied the simple joy of sunlight and freedom. As the children grew older, they began to question the world outside. Sara, desperate to protect them, told them that the man who visited was their uncle. But when adolescence arrived, so did the truth. Sara could no longer hide it. The man they thought was family was in fact their father and their grandfather. The revelation shattered their fragile understanding of life, deepening the trauma of their captivity. Life underground was unbearable, and countless times Sara and her children tried to escape. They pushed, they plotted, they dreamed of breaking free. But every attempt failed. Every failure was met with brutal punishment from Don, the man who was supposed to be their protector, but had become their captor. Each punishment was a cruel reminder that freedom was always just out of reach. Meanwhile, upstairs, life went on. Sara's mother never stopped looking for her, clinging to hope year after year. Her sister Emily lived quietly under the same roof, suspecting that something terrible had happened, but powerless to prove it. She kept her silence, fearful of their father's wrath, obeying his rules in order to survive. Even Sara's boyfriend, Chris, refused to give up when she first went missing. He came searching, desperate for answers. But her father deceived him with a cold lie. He claimed Sara had always dreamed of running away with another boyfriend, and she had finally done so. With no proof to the contrary, Chris was forced to believe her gone forever. The turning point came one night when Maria, Sara's eldest daughter, suffered a severe asthma attack. Desperate and terrified, Sara begged Don to take the girl to a hospital. At first he resisted, afraid of exposure, but Sara's pleas were relentless. Finally, he relented, though only under his control. He drove them to the hospital, taking Sara and Maria with him, never imagining that his tightly woven secret was about to unravel. Inside the hospital, Sara knew this was her only chance. Surrounded by strangers for the first time in decades, she summoned her courage. Subtly but firmly, she caught the attention of a nurse and a security guard, signaling that something was terribly wrong. It was a small act of bravery, but it was enough. The truth began to surface, and Don's iron grip finally slipped. Authorities were called, investigations opened, and the nightmare that had lasted 2 decades came to light. Don was reported, arrested, and exposed for his crimes. Maria survived her asthma attack, thanks to proper medical care. And Michael, the last of Sara's children left underground, was finally brought into the light of day. For Sara, the moment was overwhelming. After 20 years of pain, humiliation, and stolen time, she stepped back into the world. She was reunited with her mother, who had never given up hope, with her sister Emily, who had lived in silent fear for years, and even with Chris, the boyfriend she had loved before her captivity. Together, they represented everything her father had tried to take away: love, family, and the possibility of a future. Sarah's story is one of unimaginable suffering, but also one of strength. Though scarred by the past, she refused to let it define her. What was meant to break her instead revealed her resilience. And in the end, she proved that even in the darkest corners of life, hope can survive, and freedom can be reclaimed.